So Bart, I saw the film last night. It was great. It was moving. It was deep. It felt very personal. I know
you.
it's great. I know it's a remake of a Danish film. I'm curious, how did the idea come about to remake that film?
Well, it was really Joel Michaels, who is one of the producers of the film, fell in love with Suzanne's movie, and he got the rights right after it came out in 2006. And then he kept them for like 12 years, and it wasn't until a couple of years ago that he and I crossed paths, and he had been unable to get the movie made for various reasons. And I knew Suzanne's work, but I did not know this film. So when I watched it, I immediately loved the complexity, and it was right up my alley as far as being primarily about the subtlety and the kind of joy and pain of relationships,
right?
And family in particular. And the originality of the story was something I really responded to, because I tend to write things that are sort of quieter story-wise, that are much more just about the characters with an incidental plot. And the plot was so big here that I felt like we could have both, a character piece that also had a strong story plot. But as I tried to address it as a writer, it just didn't catch fire for me, because I was very aware of the fact that there was another filmmaker there who had already made a really fully realized, effective movie, and I didn't see a reason why I should remake it. I knew it would be a different location, and I knew it would be a different language, but that wasn't enough for me. And so as I kind of struggled with that, I did a lot of talking to the producers, and my wife saw the movie, and she was very drawn to the part that Rolf Lonsgaard played. But not because she thought she would play it, but she just loved his performance and the complexity of it. And so then one of the producers suggested to me that I take a crack at changing the genders, which seemed unbelievably cliche to me at first. And like it wouldn't work because of some of the plot points that are difficult to talk about in interviews, and I give everything away. But it turned out that the very challenges of that ended up being the defining aspect that allowed it to feel like it was my own.
Okay. Now, this is a phenomenal cast. This is one of the best casts I've seen this year of any film.
Thank you.
What was it like assembling this great crew?
Well, I had a couple of sort of things to dangle in front of these people. First of which being this great story that Suzanne wrote that had already been acknowledged as an Academy Award nominated movie.
Right.
And then the second one being my collaboration with Julianne. And so once you get her playing this role and you have this, and honestly, I felt like the script opened up to me and I was able to write something that I got a lot of good feedback about. I felt like changing the three lead genders kind of modernized it also in a way. And so I started to feel very relevant. So really it was the combination of those things that allowed us to go after Michelle, who I didn't know, and Julie knew a little bit.
Okay.
And you know what? The other fact is that the role that Julianne was. Sorry, I go back and forth between calling her Julie and Julianne. I always call her Julie. The role that Julie was attracted to was really a very, very large but supporting role. If you're going to look at film in a traditional way, of like the protagonist taking you from beginning and having a big change. So we had the advantage of being able to offer Michelle the lead role in the movie, which actors always love.
Of course. And it worked very well.
It was, and it was this confluence. I've been saying, for me, that scene where Julianne and Michelle are sitting in the office across from one another was very early on in our shoot, and I felt like it was my Pacino, De Niro in Heat, where you can't believe these two actors are about to go at it.
I like the comparison. Good.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm obviously, it's partly tongue-in-cheek, but it's really partly true. Like, what is going to happen? When these two people open their mouths. So it was, and then Billy is someone I've worked with now 3 times, and he wasn't available at first, and then I convinced him basically to change things around.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you convinced him. It's a great movie.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And the movie has a really unique tone. I'm curious, how did you establish the style and tone of the film?
Thank you, and I think that a lot of it came out of being highly aware of the fact that this was a melodrama as far as the story goes, and that I wanted to be very, very naturalistic and have a very quiet camera, and be naturalistic dialogue-wise, style of acting-wise, so you didn't feel my interference too much as a filmmaker. Because I worried that with such a heightened story, that kind of misstep could push it over the top. So I tried to kind of lay back and let the actors do the work, just without doing too many like push-ins to tell you this is the height, this is the moment to pay attention to. And we did a lot of stripping away of dialogue on that and in the editing room. We did some. Once we realized, these actors communicate so clearly in silence or with their faces. I mean, especially Michelle at the wedding. It's like a virtuoso moment in acting where she is able to communicate very
so many emotions in one scene.
Yeah, exactly. And somehow. And it was really important to me that we always be, that the audience wasn't too far ahead ever. So that's why I tried to not punctuate any cinematic moments with like either push-ins or heightened technique.
And it's a very character-heavy film. It relies almost entirely on the performances and the script. I'm curious, are there any ideas, any thoughts of making this into a stage play?
Making it into a stage play, did you say?
Yeah.
No, I have never had that thought, but it's interesting. I wonder how it would work. It might. Maybe. I think part of it is because there's this weird mix in this movie of no exposition and then a lot of exposition. There's like, it's like scenes where, as we talked about in the wedding, where there is nothing said that is actually going on. And then all of a sudden these scenes like in the kitchen where everything is so but it would be interesting. I don't know. I've never written a play, and so I don't tend to think about those terms. But
food for thought.
Food. How about a musical?
That would be so weird. Oh, I love it. Great. Now I'm curious, what was it like working with Julie?
I was just saying that my answer, I hate that my answer's so boring, because it's just, there's nothing bad about it. It's just all pure, it's all pure pleasure, and on 2 separate levels. One is that she is, in my belief, one of the top few actors working. And I think a lot of people would agree with me. So you just can't wait to see what she's going to do. I was just equating it to, like, you go to a restaurant and you it's a great chef and you order, and then you can't wait to get the food. You can't believe what you're going to get. And so to get someone like that, but who approaches her work in a way where she prepares, she's deep feeling, but she doesn't predetermine the way it needs to be. Then you combine her with Michelle and Billy and Abbey, and it becomes like this combustible thing. So just on a purely selfish directorial level, you just feel like you've hired this this sort of artistic genius to express your words.
All right.
You know, and on a personal level, we end up spending time away from each other when she's working on something else and I'm working on something else. And as much as that's a fact of life, it's really nice as two artists who always bring their work home, especially me. Nice to like share that with someone so intimately. You know, we talked about the characters in the script and the locations and everything all the time. And I tend to do that always when I'm working on a movie, but I don't always get to share it with her.
Okay. Now, is it difficult to separate the professional life from the personal?
Yeah, it is, but I don't strive to do that. I think that there is some maybe. It's not that it's difficult. It's just that that's not on my agenda. You know, we don't take like a time out. We have our kids and we have our whole life of the last 23 years together. So, and it's a finite period of time where we do this. So I guess it's like anything where you're with someone a lot and you're very intimate with them, and sometimes that means that there are challenges, and then most of the time it just means that you're kind of building even more intimacy.
Okay. And now we just spoke to, you had a long relationship and career with Julie. What was it like working with Abbey Quinn? Was this your first film with her?
Yeah, it was, and I'd seen her in a movie called Landline with she played Jenny Slate's sister.
Right.
Much different character.
That was John Turturro, correct?
Yeah, John Turturro, Edie Falco,
that was really
Gillian Robespierre. Yeah, and Abbey was like a petulant teenager in that she was a rebellious teenager, and not at all what this character was. But Doug Abel, who is my longtime collaborator as casting director and knows every New York actor, was he said to me early on, "You're going to want Abbey for this because she's just exactly what you're describing as far as her ability to." It's kind of a tall order to ask someone who's 22 years old to act with Julianne and Michelle and Billy,
right?
In a movie where you have to be like deliver emotionally over and over again. So she read and she was clearly good. And then I had her read the wedding speeches, which are the big moment, and she did that after we spoke on Skype, and I gave her some direction, and then it was obvious. So working with her, it was. The best part is that she doesn't ever worry that she needs to over communicate something, and that's I find to be an unusual quality. She's not going for a result; she's going to be present, and I think that's an unusual quality for a young actor, which I loved. And then she let me worry about the result, so I could push her a little further here or there. But it was super lucky, and I remember Billy saying, day 2 or something. My God, she's so available.
Nice, excellent. All right, I'm curious. What were some challenges you guys faced on set?
The main challenge was being able to achieve this tone very quickly with not a lot of time to play around. So I mean, I couldn't have done it without actors of this caliber, because there's like, as we spoke about, there was all this exposition,
right?
But then it was very important to me that it not feel like exposition. So there was a constant battle between how much do we want to communicate here and how much do we want to just kind of let them behave in these environments. And so we just all had to be like on the top of our game all the time. And honestly, I feel like we made it by the skin of our teeth. It was if I hadn't had actors of this level, including in the supporting roles, and a crew of this level, it wouldn't. I don't think we could have done it. It always felt on the precipice of falling apart.
Any great work of art, right?
Yeah, I guess so.